All right, this is the copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. And this video is not for any monetary gain. It is explicitly for the reasons stipulated in the Copyright Act of 1976 under Section 107.
On this date in 1933, as the result of a cotton strike between Mexican workers and white ranchers, 3 Mexican nationals were killed in Central California. Upwards of 18,000 Mexican cotton pickers refused to work until they received a fairer wage of $1 per 100 pounds picked. In 1932, the cotton prices rose by 150%. However, between 1930 and 1933, Mexican workers' wages fell by more than 75%. White growers offered only 60 cents per 100 pounds picked. When 30 armed white ranchers showed up to a rally in Pixley, California, they shot 10 unarmed workers, killing Dolores Hernandez and Delfino Davila and wounding others. Pedro Sabia was also killed by white ranchers at a different farm at a nearby rally. The white growers evicted the working families, causing them to camp out in nearby fields. Local authorities and businesses denied them food. This resulted in 7 Mexican children dying of malnutrition over the course of 2 weeks. Not even the federal government would provide food until the workers accepted 75 cents per 100 pounds picked. The following February, 8 ranchers stood trial for the murders. They were acquitted by an all-white jury. The more truth we know about each other's plight, the more compassion we develop for one another. To stamp on your hidden history, lock in with me. Truly your #1 history influencer.
This is the book of Obadiah, chapter 1, verse 10, and it reads, For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. Giving all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rahak HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and teaching us this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like it to the speckled bird, also known as your Israelite foreigners and your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. To you, I say Shalom. This is your brother Ayashar Barazal, prophet of doom from the Indianapolis branch of the Great Millstone, coming back at you with another lesson that is edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. All right, and this is part of our another installment of our camp series called "For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob," where we go through the history, both past and present, the treachery and the bloodshed that Esau Edom, who is a so-called white man, has committed against the sons of Israel. All right. All right, and this he is relentless. Um, the source today is again from EJI, meaning Equality Justice Initiative, and I believe in this topic, particular topic I have for today is going to really show you, for you non-believers, just want to say that the Israelites are black only. No, it's going to show you that the Northern Kingdom, who are your Latinos and Native Americans, were treated the exact same way by Esau. All right, you're going to see this. All right, but it says, going back to the opening scripture, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob, this is talking about Esau Edom, the so-called white man. Okay, who is the wicked according to Malachi 1 and 4. You know, and we know Esau Edom was the twin brother of Jacob. You know, and it says, and for that violence, shame shall cover thee. And this is we're over 150 videos with this one, and we haven't even scratched the surface. As we do these videos, this devil is getting worse and worse every day, as you can see with the ice raids, you know, on both the southern and northern kingdom, you know. Uh, but, we know it's that time, the beginning of Jacob's trouble. It's here. All right. It just hasn't spread worldwide yet or, countrywide yet, but it's here. All right. And it says, shame shall cover thee. And they're afraid of that shame. That image you put up that fooled every damn body, everybody knows you're the devil now, beginning with Amalek. Okay. The thimble cap wearers over in the state of Israel right now. That's who it all starts with. All right. And then the rest of you, you know, pasty patriots, trying to keep it, codified here. And it says that shame shall cover you. That's why you stripping away history, taking down artifacts from museums, taking stuff off the internet. All right, rewriting history books. Yeah, because you've gotten away with a lot of dirt for a long ass time, and it's time to pay up. It is, and we see it. We see it, and the Lord is letting us know. We're seeing those chariot sightings are picking up, and it's got you scared. So you got to make a move. All right. You've already started, but once you come after the elect, the prophets, yep, that's when the Lord's going to raise up that standard, and you're going to be dealt with. All right. And it goes on to say, and that, that's that shame covering you, and you're going to be cut off forever. Yeah. So when it's all said and done, you will be going into slavery. Esau, Edom, you will be going into slavery. All right. And after you serve it twice as long and twice as hard as we did, you will be no more present on this earth. All right. That's in verse 18. It says, and the house of Jacob, the southern kingdom, shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph, the northern kingdom, shall be a flame. Those are the two kingdoms that bringing down that grave wrath on right now with ICE and federal agents. All right. It says, and the house of Esau, the so-called white man, all right, for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai have spoken it. We know that the word of the Lord returns not to him void once it goes out. All right. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get to this article. There will be a copy of it in the description box or the comments. Like I said, it's from one of our sources that we use for this series, EJI, meaning Equal Justice Initiative. All right. It says Mexican diplomat farm workers killed during California labor strike. On October 10th, 1933, 3 Mexican nationals were killed in Central California during cotton growers' attempts to break a strike waged by roughly 15,000 to 18,000 cotton pickers and the cotton gin workers. It says roughly 95% of the strikers were Mexican migrant workers whose pay had fallen more than 75% since 1930, even as the price of cotton rose 150% in 1932. The strikers were demanding pay of $1 per 100 pounds of cotton picked. The owners offered 60. So I kind of looked into this as well. Okay, they were demanding $1 per 100 pounds. Okay, but they offered 60. So let me grab this. There's a screenshot. I looked it up. And it says in 1933, how many pounds of cotton per day did Mexicans pick in California? It says information from a 1933 strike indicates that cotton pickers in California, many of whom were Mexican, were expected to pick 300 pounds of cotton in a 10-hour day. All right, a 10-hour day. On another source I looked up, in 1933, 100 pounds of cotton was worth $11 at that time. Okay, $11 for every 100 pounds. So, you know, Northern Kingdom was asking for, a dollar. So pretty much $3 a day. All right. And you can see here, $3 for a 10-hour day. And we know how the Northern Kingdom worked, specifically Issachar, so-called Mexican. It was more than just one, you know. A lot of them worked together, so they had to split that $3, okay, but which they didn't get, you know. Like I said, they offered 60 cents, so 60 cents a day. That's what they were offering, and we know Esau today. He doesn't pay a man for his day's wages. Some people get paid weekly, but the majority get paid bi-weekly. All right. So that's another thing. All right. It says a daily quota. Slocky. In October 1933, this is the context of the 1933 cotton strike. In October 1933, up to 18,000 cotton pickers led by Mexican workers went on strike in San Joaquin Valley. Key details from that event clarify the picking rates. Daily quota. A group of organizers determined that an average picker needed 10 hours to harvest 300 pounds of cotton. 10 hours in the California sun. 10 hours. Okay. And, we'll get to it. They were making anywhere, so 10 hours a day, 300 pounds, based on the rates, which were 40 and 60 cents. That was either, $1.20 a day and $1.80 a day. All right. It says the strike wage demand. The workers through the Cannery and Agricultural Workers Industry Union, CAWIU, demanded a rate of a dollar per 100 pounds of cotton picked. Growers' wage offer. The growers initially offered 40 cents per 100 pounds. Okay, 300 pounds a day. That's $1.20 a day for 10 hours. Jeez. But raised their offer to 60 cents per 100 pounds to avert the strike. This was rejected by the pickers. Okay, so $1.20 to $1.80 for a 10-hour day, and like I said, we don't know how many it took to pick that many pounds. All right, it says strike resolution. The strike ended in late October 1933 when a compromise was reached to pay 75 cents per 100 pounds. All right. So once again, that was what? That increased from $1.20 to $1.80 per day, and then 75. So that went to what? 225 a day. All right. Esau, based on 300 pounds of cotton being worth 100 pounds of cotton being worth $11. Multiply that times three to get to 300 pounds per day. You know, Northern Kingdom was only making with that 75 cents, $2.25 out of the $33 that was made. That it was worth on that day. So Esau's wealth was compounding exponentially compared to the Northern Kingdom. Think about that. 225 a day. Subtract that from a 33. That's $30.75. Yeah. Let me Can get my math straight. I'm trying to work pretty fast. So that's 33 minus 225. Slovakia. Yeah, $30.75. All right, my math was right. All right, but yeah, so that was pretty much defrauding the Northern Kingdom, and we know that that's you know that's against the law. All right, let me get to that. This is the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 13, and it reads, "Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him." That's exactly what Esau was doing, robbing the Northern Kingdom. Okay. The wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. And you're supposed to pay a man at the end of the day for his work. Pay him his wage, his daily wage. Okay, you're supposed to do that. But like I said, we know Esau today. He either pays weekly or bi-weekly. Nothing has changed. So he's wrong right there. All right. And this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 22, verse 13. And it reads, "Woe unto him that built his house by unrighteousness, and his chambers by wrong." And when you making, $30 and 75 cents a day versus 225, yeah, at that time, 1933, you were able to do some very nice, extravagant things very quickly. Where the Northern Kingdom, multiple people had to work off of that small amount of $2.25 a day. All right. It says, "Woe unto him and that woe means destruction, death and destruction." All right. "Woe unto him that buildeth his house by unrighteousness and his chambers by wrong, that useth his neighbor's service without wages and giveth him not for his work." So yeah, you were defrauding the Northern Kingdom, Esau. And it says, "Woe, death and destruction to you for doing that." All right. You grab one more on that defrauding. This is the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus, chapter 34, beginning in verse 21. And it reads, it says, "The bread of the needy being, the Israelites, is their life. He that defraudeth him thereof is a man of blood." Yeah, we know Esau is a man of blood, like the scriptures say, Ezekiel 35, 5 and 6, since he has not hated blood, blood is going to pursue him. So yeah, verse 22, "He that taketh away his neighbor's living slayeth him." And we're going to see that in the rest of this article. That's exactly what they did. "And he that defraudeth the laborer of his hire is a bloodshedder." All day long, that's Esau Edom. All day long. Even currently with the wages today, the amount of taxes. All right. You tax the tax on top of the tax, and then you tax that. All right. So let me get back to the article. All right. It says Dolores Hernandez, a picker, and Delfino Davila, a Mexican consular representative, were shot and killed in Pixley, California, when at least 30 armed white ranchers confronted dozens of unarmed Mexican laborers who had gathered to hear one of the strike leaders speak. And once again, we know that's Esau. That's his MO when it comes to bloodshed. He either has to outgun you or outman you. It's never going to be a level playing field with this devil. You know, you were defrauding these people, you were cheating them. A 10-hour day, 225, $2.25 each day. Yeah. And now I will say, compared to the Southern Kingdom, at least, you know, the Northern Kingdom made some money, even though it was literally nothing, and could protest it. Southern Kingdom, no. And I'm sure they had to produce more than 300 pounds a day. All right. Because Southern Kingdom, we were the property of Esau, Edom. I'll probably do a video on that, on how much the Southern Kingdom had to produce. You know, I'm sure it was more than that. All right. And it was all free. All right. It says 8 other strikers were shot and wounded by the ranchers. Pedro Subia, a third person killed that day, was shot in a separate incident when other armed growers and police confronted strikers at a nearby farm. Okay. 3 other strikers were shot and wounded alongside Mr. Subia. So here it is. This is a peaceful protest, just like today. They don't want to see that. They don't want it put on Front Street that they are wrong or defrauding you. The police had a hand in taking those people down. Again, we always say, in every one of these videos, it became quite clear after, early on with these For Thy Violence Against Thy Brother Jacob videos, that the government or any faction thereof, which includes the local police, had a hand directly or indirectly in the demise of Jake. All right. That's why we keep telling Jake, quit going to this government asking for reparations. The people who have put us in this position uh, aren't going to get you out of it. All right. All we have is Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. That's who you have to turn to. All right. The article goes on. Days earlier, growers had tried to break the strike by evicting the Mexican workers and their families from housing on the growers' property. When the workers and families maintained the strike and camped in nearby fields, growers conspired with local authorities, government again, and businesses to refuse them access to food. Even the federal government promised food aid only if the migrant workers acceded to the growers' demands. Over the course of 2 weeks, 7 children of the strikers reportedly died from malnutrition. All right. So once again, you Israelites who believe that it's just black only, this is proof. You know, now it was worse on Judah, the southern kingdom, but the same stuff was happening to the northern kingdom as well on this soil. Okay, that's how we know Babylon the Great is also America. Jeremiah 50 and 33 says Judah and Israel were oppressed together and they refused to let them go. All right, let me just grab that. Jeremiah 50 and 33. Okay. It says, Thus saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushua of hosts, the children of Israel, the northern kingdom, and the children of Judah, the southern kingdom, were oppressed together. Okay. See, we were out of slavery in 1865. Wasn't picking no more damn cotton. All right. Unless you got a felony according to the 13th Amendment, and they put you on those plantations, those prison farms. All right. It says, and all that took them captives held them fast and refused to let them go. All right. See, you got to remember here, all 12 tribes. This, America is the second time. We've all been together. We were split up, going all the way. The last time we were together, all 12 tribes was in Egypt. All right, the first captivity, which proves that America is also spiritual Egypt. Egypt meaning house of bondage. Okay, Mizraim meaning we're in straits. You know, a place of difficulty. You know, very hard to survive in this place, but we do. All right, that's the type of resilience Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai gave his people, especially the ones that fear him. All right, which is the elect. Going back to the article, the hopeful elect. All right, it says the strike ended on October 26, 1933, when the growers agreed to pay 75 cents per 100 pounds of cotton. In February 1934, 8 ranchers standing trial for the murder of Dolores Hernandez and Delfino Davila were found not guilty by an all white local jury. No one was ever tried for killing Pedro Sabia. And that's the same thing that the Southern Kingdom goes through. All right, the so called Negro, Haitians, and Jamaicans, go through the same thing. These are the same curses, according to Deuteronomy 28, verses 15 through 68. You know, each one of us can't have all of the curses, or you'd be bugged out, you know. But they have touched us in one way, shape, or form or another. All right, all of them have, except for the last one for those who didn't come over here on slave ships. Okay, for the most part. Okay, that's the one that stands out predominantly right now. All right, but yeah, no one was ever charged for what they did. This is Psalm 73 and 5. Same thing with Jake right now. It says, they are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued as other men. That's because they rule this place. Job 9:24 tells us that the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. We know the wicked to be Esau, Edom, according to Malachi 1 and 4. Okay, he's the ones that makes all the laws. All right, and we're here today in this captivity. All right, it says, therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. You know, when you got the civilians knowing that they have the backing of the police, that instance in 1933, same thing today that Esau be saying today, back to blue. Yeah, because they know nothing's going to happen to them. All right, I just saw a clip yesterday where Edomite hit a kid on a bike. I believe it was in Mississippi, and he was drunk as hell. They told him to go home, but that's what we're dealing with. All right, but all is not in vain, especially for those who fear him, because we see Esau ends coming. It's already here. It is. That's why they're doing what they have to do. They get ready to come down with this great wrath. All right. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 33, and verse 1. Woe to thee that spoilest, death and destruction to thee that spoilest. Who was a spoiler? Esau, Edom. Okay. The one who robbed, raped, and murdered. And thou was not spoiled. Nothing happened to you. You've been able to run roughshod, over this planet, all nations, and especially the Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, not having to have any accountability or restitution. All right. It says, woe to thee that spoilest, and thou wast not spoiled, that dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou shalt make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. All right, and that's what's gonna happen. You know, we are hastening the day of the return of our Lord Yahweh Shah Hamashiach. All right, we're gonna be heirs in His kingdom when He comes back. You know, put that new covenant within our bodies and destroy this place, Babylon the Great, aka America. That is going to happen. You know, as much as many of you hate to believe it, that is going to happen. All right. So get ready, because those chariots, you know, have been showing themselves. You had that one big one that blocked out the sun. You know, that's the one we think that, you know, that's that fathership, the one that's going to gather us from every nation. So to the elect, you know, stay grounded, stay rooted. All right. Because like I said, I always say it in this video, we got next. All right. And it's going to be permanently too. All right. So yeah, the tides are getting ready to change. All that you did is about to come back onto you. You know, Colossians 3 and 25 says, he that doeth wrong must receive for the wrong which he have done. And there's no respect of persons. Okay. That no respect of person. I don't want to hear from you Edomites today talking about, well, I wasn't there. That was my ancestors. No, the Lord deals with nations. Okay. It's at his discretion to deal with an individual. You can get that in Job chapter 34 and verse 29. Just like he dealt with us as a nation, including our judges who feared the Lord. You know, we all had to pay as a nation, you know, and nobody has gone through what we've gone through. You know, that full account of that you can get in Daniel chapter 9, verses 9 through 14. All right, I'm not going to go to it. You can look it up and read it. All right. So, yeah, it's going to be your turn to go into captivity. You know, still in the book of Isaiah. This is Isaiah chapter 14, beginning at verse 1. And it reads, for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. Okay. Our own land is not only the area that's being occupied by the Palestinians and the thimble cap wearers. Okay. The scriptures tell us in Ezekiel 36 that the heathen is going to part his land. All right. And live in it. But that's our land. Okay. But the part that the state of Israel, okay, and the Palestinians have is the part that was, you know, that was the headquarters for all 12 tribes, okay, with the Levites and the suburbs of those tribes. But the full land is from the great river of Egypt, which is the Nile, all the way over to the Euphrates, okay? That's why those thimble cap wearers are mad right now, you know? That's another way of telling them that they have not fulfilled prophecy because they don't have the lands outside of the headquarters, all right? And everyone that, you know, that they're at war with all of those people. You can't fulfill prophecy. That's how we know you're not the people. All right. And no matter what you do to what, you know, platforms, you are not going to change this narrative, you know, taking over TikTok and all that stuff. You are not going to change the truth. You know, it's not going to happen. All right. It says, back in at the top of Isaiah 14 and 1. For Yahweh Bashem Yahushai will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers, those are Israelites that were scattered abroad, all right, shall be joined unto them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Okay. And the people, the Israelites, okay, mentioned in verse 1, shall take them and bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were. Yeah, y'all going into slavery. You so-called white people who are the biblical Edomites, you are going into slavery. It's only right. It's only right. All right. It says, and they shall rule over their oppressors. You know, now we got to keep in mind, you know, First Maccabees 2:10. Let me grab that. It reads, what nation hath not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? All right. So yeah, you all the nations put their hands on us, all of them, and you're gonna pay dearly. But Esau, Edom, is going to get it the absolute worst because you showed no mercy. You know, scriptures clearly say that you furthered the affliction. All right, back to Isaiah chapter 14. All right, verse 3. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear, from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. Over here in Babylon the Great, aka America. And you Jakes, you know, that read the Bible and the ones that don't. It's really messed up for the ones who read the Bible. You're trying to make it over here in America when it's circling the drain right now. Babylon the Great. Every scripture in the Bible says the only time we will be at rest is when we're back at home in our land. All right? We're not going to be at rest here. Baruch 3:8 tells you that. Okay? Micah 2:10 tells us to arise and depart, for this place is not your rest. Okay? Now, that don't mean to physically get up and leave. That means to come out of the ways of Babylon the Great. You know, defiling yourselves, serving other gods, so on and so forth. All right? So, yeah, the tides are going to turn on you, Esau, Edom, for just one of these things here, just like this story here. All right. It says, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon. Who's the king of Babylon right now? You know, DJT. All right. And say, how hath the oppressor ceased? How was the golden city ceased? Very simple answer. You know, the Lord did his work. You know, what's that? Psalms 119 and 126, I think. Let me grab that. I'll come back. Psalms 119, 126. Oh, yeah. It says, it is time for thee to work, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. It was time for thee, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, to work, for they have made void thy law. Yeah. Yeah. You call yourselves Christians, but are totally against the Bible. Totally against it. You use the scriptures to favor you. All right, I did a video yesterday, or a couple of days ago, you know, proving that the term Christian you hijacked, you know, it was a term of mockery for the Israelites that were in the Greek and Roman captivities. All right, the original Christians, you know, which simply means a follower of Hamashiach, were the Israelites. Okay, you get that in the book of Acts, chapter 11, verse 25 and 26. All right. So, yeah, they have made void the law. And we make void the law, what? Wickedness, you know, pollutes the earth exceedingly, as it says in 2nd Ezra 15. All right. Back to that Isaiah 14. All right. So yeah, the oppressor has ceased, and the golden city, which is America. Okay. And prophecy. What was that? A couple months ago, Trump said he wanted to make a golden dome. You know, yeah, you can't make this stuff up. Which would make America that golden city. All right. But the oppressor ceased, and the city has ceased also because of prophecy. And we've been telling you all along, this is what Yahweh Bashem Yahushua is going to do. All right. Verse 5. It says, the Lord have broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. Okay. It is Yahushua, King David, and 144,000 rulers and judges that will have dominion over this place, as well as the remaining 1/3 of Israel, who will bring back, the rest of Israel, you know. But right now, it's just the elect, which is the 1/3, and that includes the 144,000, the elect of the elect. All right. Gonna bring the nation back. All right. And the scepter of the rulers, yeah. That's our government is the only one that will be ruling. You're gonna have to keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the nation of Israel. You get that in Isaiah 2. All you other nations gonna have to keep our law, statutes, and commandments. So yeah, you Edomites, this story, you're gonna pay for what you did. All right. You will be in servitude to the Israelites, and it's coming. We can see it. And if you're not going to do that, well, this is also in Isaiah chapter 60 and verse 12. And it reads, for the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish. Yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. All right. So with that, I hope this lesson was edifying to the elect body of the nation of Israel. Once again, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rahak HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well in teaching me this 100% truth. Salutations to them and my fellow Akim who labor in this truth week in and week out on the highways and byways. Also, salutations to the hopeful elect of the scattered 12 tribes of Israel, scattered to the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird. To you, I say Shalom, Kwam Yasharala, Abba Babal. We got next. Shalom.